Welcome to the In Cobb We Trust podcast. And today I have the express pleasure of interviewing Michael Garza, former candidate for House District 46.
That's me.
And a little aside, we were just talking, but the first time we met formally was in Woodstock when you were running.
Yes.
And there was an event, and I had entered my name into a banned book drawing,
Yes.
and I ended up winning.
Do you remember what book that we gave you?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Now you knew you were going to ask me that. I don't. I don't
okay.
remember what
I don't remember it either. We had so many of them.
And then when I was District 2 chair, part of your district was in District 2, in Cobb County District 2, right? And
No.
or almost.
No, almost.
But we ended up crossing paths a lot.
Yes.
And I've gotten to know Michael as someone who's very thoughtful, someone who's very engaged, and someone who can knock a ton of doors. I think that's what's really stands out in my mind in terms of your candidacy, is that you knocked on a lot of doors.
Yep.
And most recently, we met each other again at the Cobb County School Board meeting when they passed the fact that they no longer broadcast public comment.
Yes.
And I had some things to say to 11 Alive. You actually got up there and spoke.
Yes, I did.
Let's talk about that. What was that? What is this all about, you think?
It's all about power. It's all about we are a county that has shifted demographically over the last decade or so. This was once a reliably red county, the county of Newt Gingrich and several prominent Republicans. And in 2016, it started to flip. 2018, we ushered in new commissioners. We flipped the county commission, and we were on the verge of flipping the school board as well. And there were very few close races. And the current board majority said, you know what? We're not going to actually listen to the community to try to change that. We're going to just shift voters around in order to make sure that we remain the majority.
And gerrymandered the maps.
They racially gerrymandered the maps. That's not my words. That's the words of the judge who ruled on those maps. And then they've undergone a series of things trying to keep the message within with our families that, hey, we're doing all these great things, and they can't have any people saying, oh, there's actually not some great things about this school district. So what they've done is killed the public broadcast of public comment.
And, we've interviewed Jennifer Susko.
Yes.
We've interviewed Heather Tolley Bauer with Watching the Funds. And in the future, we're going to be interviewing Laura Judge and Andrew Cole as well. When I was there, this idea that, hey, I want to protect people's identity online and this, that, and the other. And it's really throwing the baby out with the bathwater, if you ask me, because there are multiple ways to protect people's identity online. You could, just not have them say their name. You could not have them say a bunch of stuff. But the idea that public comment shouldn't be broadcast, that logic you could apply it anywhere, right? You could apply it to Board of Commissioners. You could apply it to Marietta City Council, any
Board of Elections.
Yep. It just does not hold water. And it felt like they just don't want to they don't want other people to hear that other people have an issue with, let's say, the school buses.
Right. Which was that was a huge deal a couple of months before they killed public comment, is that they had about 2/3 of our mechanics throughout the entire county came, and they spoke about low pay, overworked hours, about unsafe buses, and the school board just couldn't have that, because these weren't people like me who, frankly, I never voted for any of these people, but these were people that were most likely their people who might have supported this district and supported people like our majority. And they're coming in and saying, hey, wait a minute, there's actually something wrong. There's something. And our school board said, no, you can't do that. And then, it's interesting you say something about protecting identities. They do this 2 months before they out the identities of teachers that they want to fire because of some issues. So I know that, and let me ask you this, because that was one of your first times going to school board, if not the first time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was my first time. It was first time to school board. Yeah.
If you've never been to school board, you might think of it, it's like going to a school event. It's like going to a gymnasium. It's like going to a concert. But it's not.
No.
You go through all of the security. You have at least a dozen police officers, which, they're just doing their job. And then you have all of these people looking at you, and it does not feel like a school board meeting. It feels very much like, you're going into the White House.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. So when I've never been to school board, and I was like, you know what? My loudmouth got to show up because this is ridiculous. And so I unfortunately was a little bit later because I wanted to speak, but I had to work at the hospital.
Right.
And so by the time I got there, all the speaking spots had been taken. Okay, no problem. You go in there, you're right. There's security outside. You go in through, and then all these suits. It felt almost like a courtroom.
Yes,
That's what it felt like. So. And, like all these people, it was a little intimidating. It's a good thing that I don't care about that, but other people could be pretty intimidated. And then I remember specifically, like, when other people were speaking, they have very strict rules on, if you can make any noise or whatnot. And so the thing that they tell you is that if you agree with someone, you can stand up in place, right? And so I found myself, while you were speaking, while other people were speaking, by standing up. And then when Chris Ragsdale or some other tools on the council or on the board are talking, and I didn't like what they had to say, we turned their back. And so many people turned their back. And, you brought it up. Let's just go there. It doesn't feel like we live in a society where you can share your opinion anymore.
True.
And it doesn't feel like the Republican-controlled school board wants people to share their opinion. They don't want teachers to share their opinion. They don't want teachers to go out of line from exactly what they do. And it bothers me because, I went to school in Cobb County.
Right.
I was at Campbell High School. I was in the IB program. I'm still part of that school. I'm an alumnus. I have friends who are teachers that taught me 20 years ago. And to hear their perspective of how fearful they are to do something wrong because it would cost their job.
Yes.
It's gotten out of control.
It certainly has. And if you talk to these teachers privately, even administrators, that is the way it is. Even people who tend to support the superintendent, because he does have support throughout the district from a lot of people, is that, for example, some won't even show themselves in public necessarily with me or with people who speak out in public comment, because they know that there could be repercussions. And that is, to me, just astonishing that you can't even necessarily do that and not feel the ramifications of it.
It just doesn't seem very American to me, to be honest with you. There's just such snowflakes when it comes to any criticism. Like, it's okay. Listen, nothing's perfect, right? We're always striving to be better. And so, for example, if you have maintenance workers on these buses, bus drivers telling you, hey, there's a problem, instead of saying, wow, oh my goodness, there's a problem. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's hear more from you. Let's create a task force. Let's create a blue ribbon commission, if that's even possible. I don't even know. But let's highlight this issue so that we can make it better. It's more shut down dissent, shut down any comment, because everything is blah, 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 la, 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 really good. Yeah. And we're doing the best job ever.
Yeah.
And you cannot criticize us.
And then there's if you take a step back, is that these things could have been taken care of even before they got to school board. So the reason why they came to school board is that they tried at every level
to
get
right?
help. They tried with their supervisor. They tried with the head of the district transportation group. And at every turn, they told me specifically that the person who that they were talking to about it was on their phone the entire. And you saw when we were there giving our public comment that that the superintendent's on his phone whenever we're talking, is that district representative was doing that same thing on their phone, and he even had to ask the head of these mechanics, "Can you repeat that again, because I did not get it?" And then they had to come back later, and they were asking, "Well, what came of the things that we talked to you about?" And he said, "Well, remind me again what you were talking about." So the fact that our school board members, our superintendent did not even know that this was going on is an issue. And that's the case with all of these things, with what happened with the Sprayberry students who were discriminated against at graduation.
Right.
What happened in any of these things that have come up at school board meetings is that if we had school board members who are actually engaged in our schools, engaged with our families, engaged with our communities, they would know ahead of time. They would know that very same, week, whatever. People could actually come to them and say, "Hey, I'm having this problem. Can you help me?" And a good board member would have said, "Sure, you live in my district, or even if you don't live in my district, you came to me, you have a problem, and let's see what we can do to solve it."
What do you think it is? Because people who run for school board, it's not like the most glorious position, right? You're kind of looking at some policy wonks, usually, or ideally speaking, that really are just dedicated to students, dedicated to making education better in Cobb County. And in my brain, that's incumbent upon listening,
Sure.
but they don't seem to. So why do you think they're there?
Well, when you've gerrymandered districts as much as you have, and you've essentially said, "I don't want competition, so I'm going to choose which voters that I have." And this is not just school board. This is the state house. This is the state senate. This is Congress. You're seeing all of these redistricting things happening nationwide, where we're weaponizing the ballot box. Is that when you have districts that are no longer competitive, then you have no reason to go out and talk to your voters, because you already know I'm likely to win no matter what. So they don't care. You also get the extremes in politics. And that's where we are in Cobb County. We not only have board members who are no longer responsive to their communities, you have board members who are pandering to the extremes.
And the thing that really irks me is that they'll always talk about how they have a triple bond rating, right? And how they're so fiscally conservative, which is complete nonsense when they wanted to do a $50 million event center that was a glorified basketball gym.
Right.
Right. And
with no parking.
No parking. And I don't get it. I don't get what these people are doing, because they're just really power hungry. And the thing too is that they want to ban books.
Yeah.
We just continue to live in Cobb County, which has a great reputation for its schools.
Yes.
In some parts. And I've been in this county. I know. I lived off of Shallowford and Trickham Road. I was in the Lassiter district. I drove 45 minutes every day to go to Campbell High School. So I got to drive by Sprayberry. I got to drive through Marietta on Fairground, going all the way down to South Cobb Drive, and then take it all the way to Campbell, or Windy Hill, and then Ward Street. And so, yes, some schools are great, but it's not like we don't have our problems.
Right.
And what are we doing to identify issues and make it better for all students? I would argue we're not. We're okay with the status quo.
Yeah.
Because the haves can have it, and the have-nots, will screw them.
Yeah. And that's what this district does whenever they talk about these awards. We have the best test scores of any metro district in the state, which they've now changed it, because that's actually not true. They've now changed it. Well, we have one of the best districts in metro Atlanta. And it's because they aggregate it all. So you can have a poor performing parts of our county and higher performing parts, but when you put it together, okay, well, yes, we might do above average in test scores, but I'm also concerned about the kids who aren't doing well. A lot of kids, even in my area of Cobb, which is one of the wealthier areas of Cobb, although we're not East Cobb, we're East Cobb Light, is that we have students there who suffer. Hope has students who suffer. Some of our best schools have students who suffer, whether it's because of there is poverty in the area. There are working class people who are hurting because of prices, because of job cuts, things like that. So there are people that are hurting for whatever reason. We have a notoriously bad reputation with dealing with students that have individual learning plans, who have 504 plans. And so whenever you really dig in and start talking with people in the community, you see that these issues are happening. They happen everywhere. They happen everywhere in our district. And that we're not addressing those. We're not at least say, hey, we have our share of issues, but we're out there trying to solve them. And I've never heard that in the entire time that I've been involved in Cobb County Schools, which is the last 4 years, because my daughter is just in third grade.
It bothers me, especially when I hear about the 504 plans and the individual IEPs.
Yes.
And, I get the sense from students, because my wife's a pediatrician. She works out off of Roswell Road. So in that, the Walton district, the Pope district.
Yeah.
And there is a mental health crisis out there too.
Definitely.
The amount of anxiety, the amount of depression, the amount of ADHD that she deals with, and there's such a need for ADHD treatment.
Yes.
And it's like all these issues, because if you don't treat ADHD, let me put it this way. By treating ADHD, you can fundamentally alter a student's trajectory. They go from maybe getting yelled at all the time, not doing well in school, not getting all the positive feedback that you would normally get, to all of a sudden they can focus in this system. And I'm not saying ADHD is like, I call it delayed prefrontal cortex development, because you don't have the inhibition, but for the terminology that it is. If you treat it, you can improve students' futures. What's the discussion around that?
Right. And it's literacy. It's because if you don't attack literacy when they're young, when you're in elementary school, you have that saying, there's that detachment from school, there's a detachment from learning, there's that the outcomes are really poor. So unless we're doing things to address that ADHD, literacy, a whole range of things, especially whenever kids are young, then we're just trying to play catch up, and that doesn't do anybody any good.
Let me change topic here for a bit.
Sure.
We're going to come back to the school board and other problems, but excuse me. You have a daughter.
I do.
Third grade.
Yes.
Where'd you grow up? How'd you come to Cobb County?
So I grew up in Texas. So, you and me are friends now, but next weekend we won't be friends.
It's okay. You'll kick our ass. Don't worry.
And if we don't, I'm okay with that too. I was born and raised in Texas, in a very kind of farming town in Texas. We were actually about 15 minutes from a sundown city called Farmersville,
really?
in Texas. We came here early 2000s, came here for work. I used to work for Earthling as a product manager. Okay. So they moved us out here, and we loved it out here. We moved specifically we eventually ended up in our part of Cobb for the schools, which I think is how most people came to Cobb County who were not from generations from here. And so we didn't have a daughter at the time, but we said, okay, where is a good area that we could stop and raise a family? And then that's the area that we chose, and we love the area, even though I know a lot of Texans have big egos and like to say, once you're from Texas, you're always from Texas. Mm-hmm. But for me, Georgia's my home, and I love Georgia. I love Cobb County. I love our community, and so that's why I'm so very much involved in
you loved it so much you wanted to run for the Georgia House.
Right.
Talk to me about how you came to that decision and that entire process.
Sure. Well, my daughter was born in 2016.
Okay.
And so soon after that, Parkland happened. And when Parkland happened, it really brought to mind, well, this is what my daughter's going to be growing up in. How are we going to keep her safe in schools? And that was not my first brush with gun violence. I had a a cousin who took his own life in high school with an unsecured firearm. My uncle, when I was 10 years old, he was the victim of domestic violence with a firearm. So when Parkland happened, I started reaching out to my elected officials. I reached out to my state senator, my state house rep. Neither of them responded to me. I reached out to Karen Handel, who was our member of Congress at the time. I spoke to someone in her office, and they said, well, she is looking into perhaps arming teachers. And I said, I don't think that's the right idea. Can we have a town hall or something where the community can weigh in and tell you what we really think about what could perhaps make our community safe? And this is what's always been in the back of my mind every time I think when I'm running for office. He said, it's an election year and she's too busy to meet with voters. And I said, that is not right. So I actually started to support Lucy McBathurst running for the seat. Thankfully, she won. And then I said, well, why not me? I looked at things around me, and I said, well, my state house rep is an NRA guy. He's been completely against anything to do with making our community safe, making our schools safe. And I said, I can do that.
And you ran twice.
I did.
What are the biggest takeaways from running for office, do you think, that stay with you?
Really, it was meeting people. So you mentioned my canvassing, and I have knocked on over 10,000 doors over the last several years. So back since 2021, I knocked doors for other candidates. I've knocked doors for probably 12 to 15 different candidates over the last 4 years. And it's just meeting people. It's meeting people who are in different stations of life. It's meeting people. I met a lot of Republicans. I've met people who are not political at all. Most people are not political at all. And it's having those conversations with them, learning about what's going on in their lives, learning about, not only learning, but taking the criticism, especially when I was talking to those Republicans. I was getting all of the hate that they had for Harris and Biden at the doors, took it, and then we really, after that, started talking about what was really going on and what was really important in their lives. And a lot of times, they also had children who were not getting their needs met by the district. One I remember this. She said, "I don't think I could vote for a Democrat ever." And then her adult child with cerebral palsy walked in, and I said, "Who?" And she said, "That's my son." Sorry. And I said, "No. How was your experience with him in Cobb School?" She said, "Terrible. I couldn't. It took me years to even get him the support that he needed." And to know that this is something that transcends politics. Mm-hmm. You don't go into a school and say, "You know what? I'm a Republican. Give me the Republican version of education for my kid because they deserve something better." No, that's not the way it works. So I really enjoyed meeting people, but what I really enjoyed was the second time running. We asked people to do more than just vote for us. We asked them to come up and volunteer with us. Mm-hmm. So we elevated people to, hey, you can actually do something to better the community. You can be part of something bigger than all of us. And several of those people are now doing their own advocacy work. One of them is a candidate now. Mm-hmm. And that is something I've taken with me since then. I've done a lot of recruitment of candidates. I've done a lot of training of potential candidates. And it's really meeting people who have generally not even been talked to by politicians, but saying, hey, you deserve to be in the rooms where these decisions are made. Mm-hmm. Why not? Why not you? You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be a lawyer to go and run for office. You can do. I'm not that. Mm-hmm. So I found my calling, and it means everything to me.
And eres un Latino.
Yes.
See, I know you probably get this a lot, and yes. I don't ever want anyone to speak for the Latino community as though sure. It's some sort of monolith, because it's not. But from your perspective, what are we missing in terms of, I wouldn't want to say the Democratic Party necessarily,
Sure.
but like politically, what are what are the gaps from your perspective?
Sure. And I think you also see this maybe with young people too, is that you see young people not identifying really with being Democrat or Republican.
Right.
And it's because they're not being asked what they want out of our elected officials. They're not even being invited into the rooms. And I think that's what happens with the Latino community is that we don't have. I mean, we were talking about school board. There are 2 Latinos on school boards in the entire state of Georgia.
Are you serious?
Yes, only 2. We are 10% of the population of Georgia, and we are 0.5% of the elected officials. That's at every level: state, local, Congress. Of course, we don't have any Latino members of Congress in Georgia.
I did not realize the paucity of Latino representation.
Yeah, and it's intentional. It's in the way that districts are drawn. Whenever you get large Latino or Black populations, for example, then you start to see, well, okay, they start to change the rules with how the elections are run. So I think for me to get to get Latinos communities engaged is for them to see Latinos in power, Latinos in the rooms where these decisions are made, Latinos we have a Afro-Latino candidate running for governor. I think seeing that we can be in these positions of power, and once we're there, we're actually lifting our community up.
What was your experience? I don't know how much Latino makeup is of the district, House District 46 when you were running.
Yes, it is. It was 7%.
What was the feedback that you got from that specific community?
Sure. And I'm going to say because of we're one of those northern districts in which they have pulled areas of Cherokee down in order to make those districts safe, is that there's a very different experience between not just Latino voters, but just voters in Cobb compared to voters in Cherokee County. Like, for example, in Cobb County, our answer rates at the doors were closer to maybe 1/3 of people answered the doors. In Cherokee County, that was maybe 15%. It was such a stark gap. And then you see, well, this is a really more working class population who, when you're going to knock on their doors, they're still at work. They're still, whereas in our area, Cobb, you have maybe a lot of people who work from home. You have people who are retired.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a vastly different experience. And then you have more in Cherokee, a more collection of Latinos into one space, as
right?
Opposed to in Cobb County, in our part of Cobb, is that we're just intermingling with the rest of the community. But in Cherokee, and just we didn't get a lot of door answers from those voters,
and I don't think you're going to get them now.
Yeah.
Given,
but we did, and you mentioned that we met at that vote stock event that we had. I went with. I will say I don't speak very good Spanish. I can understand Spanish a lot better than I can speak it.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to a mobile home community in Cherokee County. They're not in my district, but we canvassed them almost that entire. I mean, it was a huge. It's probably the biggest mobile home park in Cherokee County. And I went with somebody who spoke Spanish, and we were giving them flyers at the door because we wanted to make sure that even though they weren't in my district, that elected people were going to be just a few miles away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Come and talk to us. Come and be part of our event, and we're here to listen to you. Unfortunately, the rain happened, and we got a little bit less people than we thought we might. But I think those voters were appreciative of it, because I sincerely doubt anybody's knocked on those doors. We didn't use Vote Builder. We didn't say, "Have you voted before? Are you even registered to vote?" I know a lot of them aren't, because a lot of them are undocumented immigrants. A lot of them are a mix of some people in the house are undocumented immigrants, and maybe their children were born here.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't care. We just wanted to talk to them. And I think we need to do more of that too. Mm-hmm. Do more of going into communities and not caring whether these people that we're talking to are voters or even part of our community. or
And
part of our. They're not registered to vote, I should say.
Gotcha.
They're all part of our community.
in let me kind of circle to, you work with, are you still on the Galeo Impact Fund board?
I am.
Just kind of briefly discuss that, because like that,
Yeah.
I don't think people know what is
Sure.
Galeo. And
Yeah. So Galeo. So I'm on the Galeo Impact Fund board, which is the political end side of it, which is that we go out and in the community and we find Latino candidates. Either they've declared or maybe they're thinking about it, and we try to elevate them to the point where they are candidates, and know that there are groups like ours that will support them when they run for office. People like Nicole Torado, who you had on here. She's she's a good friend of mine, and we were very thrilled to endorse her. And then there's the Galeo side, which is the C3 part, which has been going on for years, and that is about just building up Latino leadership, and also getting the community engaged civically, politically, and voter registration, things like that. So on my side, my experience as a candidate helps me, because I will say that not a lot, one of my problems with the political process is that we have a lot of groups that endorse candidates. We have a lot of groups that endorse usually only candidates that they believe can win their race. They want to be attached to winners. And what I was interested in with Galeo is that was not the benchmark for whether or not they would endorse you. They would see that you're doing the work, that you're out in the community, that you're doing all the things that you need to do in order to run a good campaign. But whether or not you could win your race was not the overriding concern.
Well, I will say that during this time that I've been involved in Cobb County politics, when there are two names that come up when it comes to mentorship, you and Danielle Bell. You guys mentor people, and I want people to know that. I want people to know that there are candidates that will help you, that will have a conversation with you, that you're not alone. That when you want to run, it's a lot, right? It's a lot. There's so much unknown. Even I'm learning every day. But there are people that will sit down and guide you through, so you don't have to make the same mistakes that they
do. Exactly. At one of your bonfires, you said, "Hey, Nora, this woman, Nora, I think you should talk with her." Nora Gaudette, she's running for city council in Marietta.
Ward 3. And
we had a conversation over the fire. Then we met several other times in person, just one-on-one at some local coffee shops, and we just laid it all out. She told me why she was thinking of running. I told her why I ran. We kind of learned from each other, and I thought, wow, this person's actually doing it for the right reasons. She's she can do this. And so for me, it seemed like it's just a no-brainer. It's something that very few people run for office. And unless you've done it, even if you've just been in the political space, unless you've run for office, you've been that lightning rod for criticism. You've been that where you're at the center of a campaign. You don't know, because it can be very lonely as a candidate. And so unless you've been through that, I don't think you can properly mentor somebody as to what to expect. So I felt that I was very fortunate whenever I first ran for office, that the previous candidate, not in 2020, but the 2018 candidate, spoke with me. She gave me all of her notes and things. And she said, Michael, you go and win this. And that meant the world to me. And I want to make sure that every candidate has that support. But not just any candidate. I do have my own compass. If I don't think somebody's in it for the right reasons, I will politely pull away.
That makes sense. And so part of what we do here is try to reach young people.
Yeah.
And what are your takeaways from interacting with young people, the experience, the process? What can we do better?
Well, I think they should be part of our campaigns. Like, for example, there was a young man named Nate Whipple who lived in my district, and we were on speaking terms. We talked, and I will say it's harder to get that engagement sometimes with high school students because they've got band, they've got their schoolwork. But I think the more that we involve them in the process, and not just hire them, actually give them money, not just internships, but actually being able to bring them in that process. I think that that's one thing we need to be able to do. But I think we also need to understand that there are a lot of young people. They're not the future; they are the now. If you go to the State House and you go to some of these committee meetings, you don't necessarily see a lot of people who look like me. You see sometimes a lot of college kids, you see some high school kids passionately speaking about, especially with education, they're speaking about what they want to see in their classrooms now. And I think that we need to understand that these young people, they're our leaders right now, and that we need to give them the proper respect that they're doing the work.
And kind of circling back to school board, and along with young people, I'm never going to let this go until we actually do something about it, but gun violence.
Yes.
It is a complete failure of American government, American society, to have this level of gun violence epidemic. Even today, we see a Michigan church being shot up. We saw kids praying, dying. We had somebody die. What was that? South Cobb?
Yeah.
Right in the parking lot at the football game. Was that what it was? Or
I don't remember. I mean, it's hard to because it's not the only one.
No, there's so many.
A middle schooler, took their life in our schools with a firearm.
Why aren't we doing anything about it?
We have, and I've back in 2022, I spoke at a hearing on gun violence in our state house. It was the first hearing that we had been allowed to even have a hearing on gun violence over that last 6 years. Even though there have been multiple incidents of gun violence, even though we had rising gun violence, I want to say in that last 5-year period that the amount of children showing up in ICUs and ERs had doubled in the state of Georgia. It was a shocking stat that I heard in one of the state Senate subcommittee meetings. And to know that this is happening, but what I have seen is what the other side, what the those who don't want any protections at all, what they're all about. And what they're all about is they believe that our Constitution of the state of Georgia says that we should have no safeguards on guns at all. None. And that, to me, is astonishing that those are the people that are listened to by our state House and state Senate reps. And the thing is, it touches on more than just the violence that happens in schools, because we have a lot of suicides in our young population, whether those happen at school or not. I feel that it's our duty to try to prevent that, especially within the school district. We have veterans in Georgia. Our suicide rates for veterans is higher than the national average, and we're doing nothing about that. We were the top city metro area in the entire country for smash and grabs for guns and vehicles. We did nothing about that. And to know that over half of these gun deaths that we've experienced in our state, in our country, could be prevented, but we've chose not to do that. And we chose not to do that because of powerful forces that benefit from the current situation.
I mean, for me, it's hard to come away with any other conclusion than it's about money. It's about just making guns. I mean, Glock is centered in Marietta, right? It's just all about the money. And you're part of Moms Demand Action.
Yes.
they have the Be Smart program,
Yes.
which is not partisan, right? It is not a right or left thing. It is about how are you smart with your guns and safe storage.
Exactly. It's about modeling responsible behavior whenever you have a firearm. So that is, if you have a firearm in the home, you secure it storely, which is keeping your ammunition separate from your firearm and making sure that it's in some sort of lock. It's not putting it under the bed. It's not putting it on top of a shelf. It's actually securing the weapon because, face it, kids will find anything. My daughter finds my hidden stash of snacks anytime, no matter where I put that. It's recognizing the role that suicide plays with gun violence. Like I said, it's not just school shootings. It's along with the mental health crisis that's happening among our kids, that making sure that you have your firearm locked away from any child that could get access to it, or that anyone who's a criminal might get access to that firearm and use that.
Is it?
And it's also, I want to make sure that we know this point, is that if you don't have firearms, it's about being comfortable to have conversations whenever your children go to a neighbor's house, on a play date, that you're comfortable enough to ask that person. You might say, oh, well, my child has a peanut allergy. Oh, and do you have firearms in the house, and are they locked securely? Mm-hmm. And if you are a gun owner and have children and are a host to those parties, it's okay to be proactive and say, by the way, we have cats and dogs and want to make sure that if your kids are allergic, oh, and I do have firearms, but they're securely locked away. It's giving that peace of mind that we can have those conversations, because those are the things that could actually make a difference in saving our kids' lives.
Is it fair to say that if the school board composition were to change, that we can expect to see movement on addressing gun violence in our schools?
Absolutely. So on day one, what we would do, and this is something that we've been pushing for years at the school district, I've been pushing it, is that we have this big system that we now use to communicate things to parents. And right now we're CTLS. And right now we're communicating political things that don't matter to our students. We could be putting out things like these things that we have with the Be Smart program, which is that if you have firearms,
week or something
exactly, you can say that, stats show that if you secure your a firearm, your child is less likely to use it and less likely to have intentional shootings. But you could also do things where you can point to resources, because these things cost money, safes cost money. Mm-hmm. But there are organizations around the county that will give you those things for free.
I would love Be Smart to be in every school.
Exactly. So we can do this, and Be Smart is not allowed to be in most schools in Cobb County because of the leadership that we have. So that is one thing that we could be doing better as a district, is making sure that our parents know that they should be locking up their firearms. The other thing is that we could be doing is that we could be pushing the legislature to make changes, because every year we put out legislative priorities, and these are the things that our lobbyists will go into the State House and talk with our Cobb legislators and say, these are the things that would make our schools safer. These things that we put on there are things around literacy, things about school funding. Why not put something in there that you must do something about gun violence at the state level, because we're seeing it in our schools, we're seeing it at...
And isn't protecting our children our number one job? I mean, that's your number one job as a parent. My number one job as a parent is protect my child. And yet they don't do that. And it's beyond infuriating, because I am tired. I am so tired of being scared every day my kids go to school.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm exhausted by it.
And who else is scared is our teachers, because not only are they being told that they have to put their lives on the line if a gunman were to go into the school. And if you notice what's been happening around that, they're saying that that's a requirement of our teachers, that you have to put yourself in harm's way. These teachers also have kids. They have kids in our schools, that they have to make that decision knowing that they could save my child, but their child is going to go without a mother, without their father, because of our inaction on this. It's just, not enough is said about is that aspect of
failing. It's a failing. It's a moral failing. It is a failing of government. It's a failing of the humanity of people. I will never submit that this is okay. I will never submit that this is somehow a price that we need to pay for the Second Amendment. I know you don't cuss, but fuck that noise. Like, I don't buy into that shit at all. Like, this does not happen with the regularity and the frequency in other countries. And oh, by the way, it says a well-regulated militia being necessary for a free state, because of that, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed upon. They missed that whole regulated militia part.
Right. And I'd say even most gun owners would say, if you ask them, who are they protecting themselves from? It's people who should not have guns, who are not trained on guns. I talked at length with a guy who, he was a Republican, and we talked about, it was during, I had my Mom's Man Action shirt on, and we talked about gun violence, and he said, I'm with you on everything. I'm with you on all of that, because there are people who should not have firearms, or there are people who have the firearms and they're not learning how to use them, and when they don't know how to use them, they're not learning how to secure
dangerous.
them. Exactly. So, I would say that most gun owners are on our side, but it's our elected officials who choose not to do something about it. And if we had more competitive districts, if we did not do the gerrymandering that we do, these people would have to answer to their constituents, and maybe we do something about gun violence. And that is a huge danger with what's happening when they're weaponizing redistricting. Is that we're going to have, we did have some action on gun violence at the national level under Biden with that with the Safer Communities Act. But that only happened because they were afraid for their jobs. They were afraid that they were going to lose power.
And I don't think we could talk about this topic enough.
Sure.
But what are maybe some other things that we haven't touched on that are going on at the school board level that we need to be aware about?
Sure. I think that sometimes a superintendent, for example, is a lightning rod for criticism. Anytime that the district does something, it falls on the superintendent. He's always giving those big, long speeches. They're always cutting him up.
Asinine.
They're saying that poor kids in apartments are ruining our county, those kinds of things. But this all happens because of the board that we have. The superintendent is just a symptom of the board. The board is made up of people who, our chair is going to be running again. He's running again.
David Chastain.
And if he wins, he will have been on the board for, I think, 16, 20 years, something like that, which is astonishing to me that somebody would want to be in office that long, but that you could actually feel that you understand what's going on in our schools still at that point. And so we have people in office right now who are on the school board, and they don't have any connections to our schools anymore. But not only that, they have chosen to disengage with the schools. They have chosen to disengage with communities. And so as much as I dislike the superintendent, it's because of the board that we have. It's because of those members of the board majority.
It feels like the tail wags the dog when it comes to the school board.
Yes.
Because in my mind, and I'm just a lay person, you would think that we have a board, superintendent works for the board, so should be telling the superintendent what to do, and the superintendent does it.
Yeah.
But it's the complete opposite. And
Exactly.
It's John Floresta along with Chris Ragsdale that seem to be running the show.
Right.
And everyone else is yep, whatever you want, boss.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
That is fair to say. And that the superintendent runs this district. And there's also very powerful people in the background that run this district. The people who, there was almost $200,000 in dark money that was raised in the month before the 2024 elections that were spent against the two Democrats running in post 5, Laura Judge and Andrew Cole in post 7, that they could raise almost $200,000 in dark money. For what?
That's the thing. It's like this agenda to make schools less safe, to have this revisionist history by banning books, not allowing topics, not broadcasting public comment, firing teachers because they deign to have an opinion on something. It is, when you put it like that, it feels really intentional. It feels like they want to take us backward.
Definitely. And what happens is that it's our students who are hurting. And going back to the gerrymandering and the racial gerrymandering, is that we have now, in our school district, our demographics are, we have around 30% Latino students, around 30% Black students. Black and Latino students make up over a majority of our school district, but their families have no say in what's going on in our school district. Through that racial gerrymandering, they have pushed all of those families together into what they feel is a permanent minority, so that those families will never have a say in our school district. Not only that, is what they've done is said, okay, now that we've done that, the board members who do represent those communities cannot have a say in the agenda and what we talk with. You saw that in the meeting. They
Yes.
talked about the whole thing, which is that the district does not allow anything to be put on the agenda unless 4 board members agree to it, or unless the chair agrees to it. And Becky Saylor, who's a board member in one of those districts, has said, I think the stat she said was, once out of 16 times have I been able to get something on the agenda that wasn't agreed upon by everybody. And it's just astonishing that they've taken away the ability of those voters to vote them out of office, and they've taken away their voice for those that are in office.
It's enough to kind of make you disheartened. It's enough to make you ask, like, what's the point, right? And maybe that's by design.
Sure.
Right? To make you feel powerless, to make you feel helpless. What can we do better as a school board to make it better for everybody?
I think it's going to be a culture change within our district, that rather than saying that we know everything up here, we don't want to hear from you, we're going to dictate what happens within our schools, is that we completely scrap that, in the understanding that we're not going to know what's good for our schools. We're not going to know what's good for our individual schools unless we're out in those individual schools, unless the teachers in those schools have a greater say in the decisions that are made, unless we're engaging with families, because we have the potential for things coming down at the national level or with the economy, things like that, in which our schools, and we have a tax on our Department of Education. So we have things that are coming down in which we know communities within our districts are going to be hurting. They're going to be hurting even with the Medicaid cuts, things like that. That's going to affect our students, because a large portion of our students who they're on Medicaid. Those students with disabilities, they're almost all on Medicaid.
Yes.
So you're not going to know when those things are happening unless you're actually in the community, unless you're already engaged with those families, and you've already come up with a plan to help those families once that happens. So we have to have better engagement in the community. We also have to have, whenever you go to school board meetings, we shouldn't need those machines that you have to walk through. I mean, our board office is 10 times more fortified than any school. Make that make sense. I remember going to one of those school board meetings, and I was next to and it was the meeting 2 years ago in which there was violence outside of the meeting, in which they had attempted to keep students from speaking.
Yes.
The move of public comment, that thing, and it was such a that the atmosphere in there really felt like I said, this is what the 1950s must have felt like. And I'm sitting next to this woman, and she says, because a mother had brought her 8-year-old to speak at the meeting about her love of reading, and the woman next to me shook her head and looked at the mother speaking and said, why would somebody bring their student to a school board meeting? And I thought, why shouldn't our school board meetings be full of students? Why shouldn't we have students who actually have a voice within our school board? For example, with our school board appoints F&T committee members, and the F&T committee members decide where those SPLOS funds are going. Mm-hmm. Why can't we appoint kids within our schools to be
like a student advisory
panel that actually sits in those meetings and can give their perspective? Why don't we have this where you can have a back and forth? If somebody in the community comes and speaks about something happening and their post member is listening, why can't that post member say, hey, I hear you, and have a back and forth, which happens at commission meetings? I've seen people talk about a dangerous road or whatever, and their commissioner will go have a back and forth saying, oh, we've talked about doing something, but anyway, there was this back and forth. And I feel that when we change the culture, we will have more student input in our district. We'll have more teacher input. We'll have more family input. And it's really, frankly, something that for me comes second. I mean, it's second nature because I'm in PTA. That's what we do. That's family engagement. We are tasked with different ways to go in and say, how do we make our school hospitable for the parents outside of the classroom environment? How do we get them to engage with teachers in a more fun, engaging environment like a bingo night or whatever it might be, and to really break down those barriers? Because whenever you break down those barriers, you start to say, hey, my student didn't get what they needed out of class or didn't get the support they needed, but it wasn't because my teacher did not like my student, but it was possibly some other thing. And so when we break those barriers down for, within the schools, I think that we can actually address the issues and not make up these issues, which is what the current board is doing, making up these political issues, which are just further dividing us.
And last question.
Yeah.
Something I ask everyone that I take care of in the hospital about what brings meaning into their life. What brings meaning into your life?
I mean, it's pretty easy for me. Is my daughter is everything to me. I am, I think she's somewhat of a daddy's girl. We have our own things that we have between us. It's story time. She loves me being in her school. She loves that I'm so engaged in the school. She loves seeing me. I love her classmates saying, hey, there's Emma's dad, and having that relationship with them. But my daughter just really does it for me. I see the world in a different way because I'm not looking at it from social media. I'm not looking at it from news sources. I'm looking at it just in her eyes. I see the possibility. I see positivity. I see creativeness. And I think that, that's really, I can't thank her enough for bringing that into my life. So, I love my daughter.
Yeah. And you know what? You got somebody to take care of you when you're older. Because girls take care of their father.
I will say when I'm older, I just turned 50. So when I'm older is now.
Michael Garza, let me say thank you. Number one, because since the moment that I've gotten involved, you've been involved before I have, and you have been somebody of tremendous standing in our community. You are a voice. You're a calm in the storm. I've never seen you frazzled. I mean, I get worked up, right? But I've never seen you frazzled, even though I know you have that fire and passion within you. I think we share that. Mm-hmm. And I find it that it's been a real honor to work alongside you. And I appreciate everything you've done for the community, and you're not done. And I just look forward to what the future brings for you.
I thank you for saying that. And I thank you for seeing that fire that I have, because, it shows up differently in different people. You've had Jennifer Susko's here, who's a different kind of fire.
Yeah.
But I will say that Jennifer shows that in a different way. She's very out there with it. And I don't know if you know people like that at all. But I'm gonna say something nice about Jennifer, really nice about Jennifer, because I've not gotten to say this and now I can't say it to the community at the school board meeting. Is that after what happened in Winder, is that she went into those communities in the days afterwards, and she saw the devastation. She was there talking to those students. She gets a lot of flack from some people in the community, from the district, saying horrible things about her. And the thing is that while I would not trust any of our board majority to do anything to keep our children safe, I would trust her, because she does not run from anything. She ran into that. She does what our counselors do. What is that she went into that community. She talked to the kids. She talked to kids she saw kids saying, why weren't you there to protect me, to other people within the school? And she told me stories, and I won't share that, but she's got such a big heart. And for her, that big heart comes out, the passion comes out. And for me, she calls me Soft Michael, because I will say similar things that she might say, but more along the lines of, hey, let's
it comes out differently. There's different strokes for different folks.
Right.
But thank you, Michael. And I really do. I mean this. I really look forward to what the future holds.
Thank you. I enjoy this.